Hey guys, welcome back to Cult of Film. I am back with one of my favorite people on the planet. We're back here with future funk DJ Nite Patrol, aka Justin, and he is going to help me touch the masterpiece that we call Get Out from director Jordan Peele. Um,
Yeah.
this movie came out in 2017. This was Peele's directorial debut. We had
Yeah.
only known him as a comedy god, really. I mean, he and Peele, incredible comedians. Then he goes out there and a real left hook with
Yeah.
this horror thriller of Get Out. And
Man.
I've watched this movie about 5, 6 times, and every time I watch it, I notice more and more. I'm more and more impressed by it. In fact, I remember when this movie dropped back in 2017. I was an Uber driver at the time, and I happened to pick up one of the original script supervisors for Get Out. I just happened to strike up a conversation with this lady, and it was a Saturday, and I remember because my nephews were in town, and she's like, "So what are your plans? Are you going to be driving?" I said, "No." I said, "Actually, I'm going to go see a movie tonight with my nephew." She's like, "Oh, really? What movie?" I said, "I really want to see that new movie, Get Out." And she's like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "Have you seen the trailer?" I said, "Well, I only saw like the 10-second teaser trailer, and I kind of don't want to watch any more than that. I try to, so many trailers kind of ruin the movies now. The way they're cut, it's sort of weird. I'm like, I just want to go in and just be fresh." And she's like, "I worked on that movie." I'm like, whoa. And then she tells me she was a script supervisor. She tells me that it barely changed from the first draft that Peele brought in. But Peele worked on that sketch or script for about 5 years before the studio got a look at it. So it was this finally sort of hammered out, polished katana of a script. And so this lady told me, yeah, it didn't change a whole lot. There, maybe a few dialogue twitches and tweaks in there. And then I go and I see this, and she gave me her phone number. This is crazy. Who in the industry that you just met, who's your Uber driver, you just give them your phone number? So this lady gave me her number. She's like, "I want you to text me when you leave the theater, like when you're done." I'm like, "Okay." And I did, and I text her. I'm like, "That was amazing," and she just sent a smiley face. So that was my first initial experience with the movie. How about you, man?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't, to be honest, I'm kind of weird when it comes to like things that are like pop culture. Usually when a lot of people are like, "Oh man, this movie's so good, we can see," it's like, nah, it couldn't be that great. How good could it be? Come on. Like everybody says the same thing. So I'm
Right.
usually always like very anti culture when it comes to a lot of things. So I actually caught it on the tail end of its popularity. So when it got, finally got released on streaming and Blu-ray and
Sure.
all that, I checked it out. And yeah, I was really blown away. I didn't know what it was really gonna be going in. Like I assumed, oh, it's probably gonna be, something like, something that could be perceived as woke agenda or something out, had like a message to it. But there was this element of horror, and I'm like, uh, how far are they gonna take this? What kind of predicament could it possibly be? And um, going into it, yeah, I was really blown away by it. I was really kind of blown away by really the second half. Like a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of the stuff that I saw, like the first hour, a lot of things, I'm like the type of person I see a horror movie. It's like so many things, so many setups are so predictable, so many characters, they do certain things and it's so cliche. And I'm like, oh God, come on. How did you get in this situation? You could have easily, man, if you just, had so many situations like that. But it seemed like I think the biggest twist was, yeah, the sunken place was like the biggest plot device of that. It was like the most interesting plot device of that movie, and how they use elements of hypnosis,
Right.
on Chris, the
It,
protagonist of the movie. That I
right.
didn't see coming. I was like, how is a person gonna get
Oh yeah. No,
trapped in a
that's
situation? It seems so obvious, And it's like hypnosis, and it's like not only hypnosis, but also that false sense of security, meeting the in-laws and guess who's coming to dinner.
right.
All of these, societal racial undertones that were kind of going in were
Mhm.
all a part of, Jordan Peele's planned. It kind of lured people in. I kind of knew what was gonna happen, and kind of knew, oh yeah, black boyfriend, white girlfriend meets white, parents, and they have
Right.
to kind of like figure out who each other's are, and how serious relationship is, all that. Because honestly, yeah, like you look at the trailer, you look at the movie, the first like maybe 30 minutes, you kind of forget that it's a classic horror movie, and then when you get into it, you kind of see like, oh, the signs of like how things are gonna turn, pretty like a pretty dark turn for the worse. And not only that, but having seen the movie, having a very suspenseful build up, and having a plot device that just really just executes everything so well for the rest of the movie. It's like the last 44 minutes of the movie is pretty much it's all super suspenseful. It wasn't predictable or obvious in any way, and it was honestly really well done. When you think about how things are kind of written to have a type of feng shui and a balance, in a sense, when you think about how it went from hypnosis to how I forgot the name of the family again. The last name, I think it was
It's the Armitage family.
thank you, the Armitage family. Their crazy science experiment had different phases, and the final phase was doing brain transplants, and how that all kind of how it is, how you have a mystery, how it goes forward. You don't know who people really are, but when everything's kind of revealed, not only does it make sense, but it's also really shocking. It was a wild ride. The last 40 minutes were a wild ride. Like the first hour was definitely a great build up, great mystery. You don't really know what's going on. There's definitely a lot of weird stuff going on, but you don't know how bad it's gonna get until you finally get to that point where the protagonist is trapped in a situation, and he's got to figure out how to escape from
Literally, he needs to get out.
Yeah, literally like the whole movie was like, it was all about get out, and it seemed like there are always signs, but when it was time for him to get out, or had these opportunities, it was too late, and then it's just it got wilder from there. It was just wow.
This movie is an absolute masterpiece. I
modern classic.
remember when I saw this, and a friend of mine who is he's a screenwriter and a director himself, just happens to be African American, and he was one of the first people I reached out to when I got out of this movie. I said, dude, I don't know what you and the lady are doing tonight, but you have got to go see the movie. And I don't know, I feel like he didn't at the time, it wasn't on his radar. He's like, Jordan Peele, so it's a comedy? I'm like, no, it is. Even though it says right on Google, it says Get Out 2017 rated R horror comedy. It is absolutely not a comedy.
Yeah, ain't comedy.
No, at all. And he said, so what's so great about it? And I told him, I said, okay. I said, Jordan Peele may have written the best episode of Twilight Zone ever, and it just happened to be a movie.
Yeah,
and he's like,
Twilight Zone story.
Yeah, very Twilight Zone, right? Like just super original, super creative. And he's like, okay, I'm in, sold. He saw it the next day, and we couldn't stop talking about it. I love how incredibly well executed it is. You could tell, thinking back to my conversation with that script supervisor lady, clearly by the time the studio got this script, it was already a really fine-tuned piece of writing. And do you know the story behind it, that Peele wrote it just for fun? He said to himself, no one will ever get a chance to let me make this movie, so I'm just going to write the movie that I want. I'm going to write this for myself. I'm going to write to satisfy myself, just so I can get out there on paper, but I'm sure nobody will ever let me make this movie. And then, sure enough, it's proof to me that if you just let creators do their thing, if you let them put your own original take and viewpoint and creative streak on something, you get really great art in the end.
You do, absolutely.
And that's really what this is. The scariest part for me, like you talked about the sunken place, that really is the most terrifying. The part of it where, again, if folks haven't seen this movie, you need to go turn this off and watch now, because I'm going to spoil some stuff. But that concept of you're still in your body, like your consciousness is still in your body, but it's being submerged by another consciousness, and how those actors, the actress Betty Gabriel, who played Georgina, and Marcus Henderson, who played Walter, how they were able to play those moments where you could see the original consciousness pushing out, like trying to say something. That scene where Chris confronts Georgina for having unplugged his phone when she was cleaning, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's like, if you could just not do that." She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I apologize." And then she starts to, say, "Yeah, I don't want to be a snitch," and she's like. Then she starts to glitch, and you can see that fight between the two consciousnesses sort of moving in and out of her eyes. That is a sophisticated level of acting. Like, I know that we take everything we watch for granted, all these movies, all of the television, but the level of acting that some of these actors had to portray, even Lakeith Stanfield in those moments, remember with the phone and everything, that was just some of the most terrifying stuff I've ever seen in a horror movie. The idea that your mind can literally, like, you could be locked away in your own body and just have control is so original and really, really scary.
Yeah, and honestly, the biggest point of sell for that type of concept really was the acting itself. Because honestly, I didn't know that was going to be the case.
Right, we don't know until later, right?
We didn't know, and it's like when you put the piece of the puzzle, you realize just how shocking that entire existence was for both of those characters. And I'm like, dang, I couldn't really tell what was going on with them at first either. When I first saw them, I was like, okay, what's their deal? It's like, at first I kind of assumed that they were just hypnotized, but it was worse than that.
Right? Yeah, like, are they just crazy? Are they mentally unstable? Are they hypnotized?
Right.
What is happening? And then you get to the end, I'm like, oh, I could never imagine anything so terrible,
Way worse than that entire time, because they were wearing hats and wearing a wig. You didn't really see the scars from those transplants. So that part shocked the crap out of me at the end. And I actually couldn't really see it, the first time that I saw it, and I went back and watched it again recently, and I was just kind of like, wait a minute, and it's like no, it's like I didn't understand the grandma reference the first time I saw the end, and I'm just like, wait, what? Those are the grandparents?
Right. Well, yeah. Like, at first it's like, how does that work? And then you learn how, and I'm just like, whoa. And it the use of there's something about, like, and obviously we're going to review all of his films, but like, there's clearly an aesthetic that Peele has. Like, this guy is such a strong filmmaker. He has a clear sort of atmosphere that he builds.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something about Get Out that, even when we start in the beginning and we're in New York, like the first time I watched this movie to every time I've watched this movie now, I think 5 or 6 times now, you just feel something on the back of your neck. You can feel there's something, like something's crowding around you. You can't put your finger on it, but it's almost like the atmosphere, like there's a dark force that's sort of pushing in on you. And from the very beginning, even in, like, you look forward to the moments where there's like a little bit of a joke or a little bit of a smile, like, whew, like even in the beginning with the deer, the moment they're driving out to the parents. I remember sitting in the theater, and that was, for me, that was a massive jump scare. I almost jumped out of my skin when that happened. I'm like, wow, and then, they pull over and they look at it, and it's this sort of, it set the tone so perfectly from that point on. And like you said, the first hour, it's all very much setup, but it's all good. It's great. Like, some people think a setup is boring. It's not. It's their world building. It's all the suspense that's building that atmosphere. And then it's like there's this pressure that builds up, and then we're like in a cannon, and then boom, we're shot out. And that last 40 to 45 minutes, it's like, whoa, what the F is going on here? And it's so much fun. Like, there's no way in a million years. I saw the 10-second trailer, and that's all I saw. Even, like we've just said, watching that first 35, 40 minutes, there's no way I could extrapolate from what he gives me in terms of the explanations we get at the end. Like, there'd be no way I'd be like, oh, so they're subjugating people's consciousness through super scientific brain surgery and like the sunken place. I
Yeah,
kind of
that
wonder,
part.
like, there's levels. Like, you have the suspense level, you have the horror level, but then I don't think people realize this is also a really fantastic science fiction film,
Yeah, when you
because
think about it
it's
technically,
never
yeah.
explained if the sunken place is the sunken place just in your head, like in your mind's eye, where you're sort of imprisoned, or is the sunken place a literal place? There's so much around the whole thing being a secret society and these people doing, a type of mind control and surgery that, as far as I know, we can't do today.
Right.
There's just, it's that just that sort of hair's breadth of, um, what would you call it? Hair's breadth of the unknown, the mystery of the unknown that's layered into that thriller aspect and that horror aspect that
Yeah,
just
that's
so fun.
yeah, that's really a really interesting point you mentioned. There's so many layers to the movie when you think about it. You have like a scientific element to it. You have, of course, like, um the sociological, well, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
like, the social economics of the situation,
sure.
and how that's all kind of flipped. Like, you have like the expectation of what people have going in. It's white versus black or something going
Right,
in. It's like you kind of assume it's going to be that type of scenario, and then
right,
as you get in, you kind of realize, the characters have different backgrounds. You have different, intentions. Like, I didn't really know the full intentions of the entire family,
right,
going into this. When I first saw this trailer, you just see, Chris just, sitting in a chair, just, crying with his eyes wide open. And I'm
right,
assuming, oh, he's gonna get trapped by this, this wicked family, and they're gonna, torture him. I assume there's gonna be torture. But
right,
back to the sunken place thing, you know, the mom was using, he's using a traumatic moment in his
right,
life, and
right.
she was using that angle. She used that angle from the position of a curious mother-in-law, or someone who was trying to protect. She was trying different. She was trying to engage with him on different social levels, on psychological levels,
Hmm.
in order to get him in a position where she could hypnotize. And that entire time, just manipulating him. It's like, of course,
Right,
he's trying to be friendly, and she tried to prompt him, with the kind of a interrogative question about, him and his daughter, or smoking. Like, they had a thing, the
right,
whole issue with, like, we don't smoke, we hate smoking. You should try to, use this hypnosis procedure we use to, kick the habit of smoking. And she took that
right,
angle, as a defensive, potential mother-in-law, I guess,
right,
as an angle to protect her daughter from his bad habits, and trying to be strict about it, in her household naturally. But then she kind of jumped in another dynamic turn. She kind of increased that level of stress, so to speak, to kind of manipulate Chris and put him in that position where she could hypnotize him. That entire time, she had the teacup, just, stirring
right.
it, and just clicking it, in the cup. And, that was her procedure the entire time. He was just kind
Which
of
is,
just,
it was so brilliant, because the minute
uh,
because there were other moments where all she had to do was like tap the spoon on the cup, and boom, and
yeah, that
out.
tripped me out. I'm like, oh my God. Like, once you did it the first time, all she had to do was do it once. And, he was completely under her control, or under her control. Anytime she clicked the cup
And the
portion of
writing of that is so good, because she got into his head by what? By appealing to the trauma of his losing his mom.
yeah, yeah. First
And
it
this,
was
it
about, yeah,
really just
exactly, yeah.
putting him
She
in
kept
this
flipping.
vulnerable place, and then he doesn't even realize he's walked into the trap, and then
Yeah.
boom, she's got him.
Right. And she, it seemed to me like he was in these situations where he's kind of like lulled into false senses of security. He
Hmm.
guess, what confidence that he had in the situation, he was trying to use it to kind of show that, he was an appealing bachelor, for the Armitage family's daughter. So,
Right,
naturally he was trying to gain appeal, in every situation, knowing full well that, he still had his concerns, about the family not being able to expect him, either be it because of his race or because of his class, his family background, things
Right.
like that. So it was all. The thing is, he came in that situation completely unprepared for whatever the Armitage family had going against no matter what. And by the time he was really starting to put the pieces together, even after the hypnosis, he was still had a sense of trust, or that he was, or he still had a sense of trust that he was trying to have with the family.
Well, this
But
is the thing, is the
honestly,
beauty
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
he
Yeah, go
trusted
ahead. Go ahead.
her. Like Rose, like I remember again, I remember on my first viewing where he's like, okay, something is fucking up. We got to get out of here. And so he's can't find the keys. He goes downstairs, and then
Oh
one by one, the family members keep coming into the living room. So they're kind of surrounding him. And he's like, Rose, find the keys. Rose, get the effing keys. Rose, the keys. And then she switches. I'm like, and I've said out loud in the theater, I'm like, you fucking bitch. I'm like, you bitch. You fucking bitch. I knew it. And I was just like, oh, I'm like, okay.
I have my doubts. I had my doubts, but yeah, she kept.
Yeah, I mean, I
kept
didn't.
fumbling
I
around
said,
for the
I
keys.
knew it, but obviously I didn't know it but I was so mad. I'm like, ooh, just.
I had my suspicions, and at first, I thought the girlfriend, at first was just, kind of, in that same sense of like a false sense of security, like she doesn't have the same perspective about her parents
Right.
that Chris would,
Right.
and I guess she was kind of in denial about it, even though at the same time she was also defending him as well from her family, from the
Right.
police officer. She didn't really
It's
like that society at all. Yeah, her
It
family and
was.
society. Yeah,
It's one of the most perfect illustrations of tactical misdirection I've ever seen on screen. It really.
yeah,
I mean, there's probably less than a handful of times where I've watched film or TV where like you get that twist, and I was just like, what? Oh, okay, this is. And then it's at that moment I kind of realized, I'm like, oh, he's gonna have to kill these motherfuckers. Like, there's no, like, because at that moment,
heck, man, yeah.
and this is the thing, there's a way to watch this movie, and I know a lot of people kind of get tripped up on the racial layers that are in it. If you are not solidly inside of Chris by that moment,
yeah,
there's something wrong with you. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's like, okay. At this point, it's not about class. It ain't about race. Now it's like, I got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
And
they aren't really even way more twisted.
any
than
cost.
Mm-mm-mm.
Ooh, man.
And honestly, oh god, it just when he saw the pictures in the
Yeah.
in the other room, I was like, oh, she's setting him up. Oh gosh, she's in on it. Oh no.
Yeah.
It was too late. It was like it's too late. And honestly, that whole situation was so great because that whole factor of hypnosis, it just made the scene so much more scary because you had a situation where Chris was he was in a position where he was going to fight back, and I mean seriously, he was still young, he was somewhat athletic and strong. I think if he wanted to, he probably could have forced himself out of that home on his own, even with the brother. He probably was in a position where, okay, if I just take out the brother and probably get out the way, I can probably make it for the door in time. But dude, no, the mom already had him. He was already trapped. I just clicked the cup, and as soon as he grabbed the lacrosse stick, it was just click. I was like,
yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, you for sure.
Oh no!
He could have fought his way out, but they got in here. They
already had him. There's no escape. Oh my god! It was like, dude.
God, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. That somebody could have that kind of control of you. But again, that. What was it? By the time you get to that point where he's strapped to that chair in the basement watching that TV, that again, I don't want to give too much away just in case people are watching this and haven't watched the movie, but
watch it, guys.
There's something that gets revealed, like a few beats later that I'm like, ooh, okay, it's fucking on like Donkey Kong. Let's go. And just this movie again, I'll never have the surprise like I did the first time watching it, but it is so beautiful to go back and watch and to see the layers, all the things you didn't understand in that first hour viewing that are then revealed in the back half. Going back and watching, knowing what's happened, you just see how beautifully and how genius level the crafting of all those little notes sort of were in all that setup. And it just, I feel like Jordan Peele, he's kind of the love child of Rod Serling, who obviously created Twilight Zone, and he's a huge fan of John Carpenter as well. And you can see that in sort of like he's brilliant at using atmosphere, and certainly so many of John Carpenter's films are atmosphere. Even if it's a dialogue scene, that's something else too about Get Out. And frankly, all of Peele's films is you can have a scene where people are just talking. I love the fact that we're so sympathetic to Chris by the time he gets to this place where he's really in a bind. And I like that level of care that Peele took to building his character, because he didn't have to go that far. It could have been just really, it could have just stopped up here where it's just a bunch of an evil secret society is trying to steal the minds and then bodies of young black people. But he chose to go deeper. And so having that moment with the future mother-in-law and talking about the loss of his mother and how that so traumatized him he couldn't do anything for hours. Most people don't dig that deep. And that's what I think what separates Peele. Peele is a true, especially, now, he's a real auteur filmmaker. You've got Jordan Peele, you have Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, The Lighthouse, Northman, and now Nosferatu. You have like this handful of auteur filmmakers in Hollywood, and that's a really good thing, because I feel like with these types of folks, because they knocked it out of the park so early in their career and keep doing it, that they kind of have carte blanche to do their thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, and think about, given Jordan Peele's, honestly, even his record as a comedian, being able to write sketches. I mean, the sketches that he writes, at least I haven't seen like all of like Jordan Peele, but I remember, of course I remember, they were also on Mad TV, and the writing, I feel like there was writing, and I feel like there was a execution in the acting that was, they understand like, instincts in human behavior, human nature, as far as like taking things, taking certain things that people are familiar with and finding a way to derive a type of humor out of them, doing something like exaggeration, the way they were able to exaggerate jokes. Like if you've seen like the sketches where Jordan Peele were the football players.
Oh my God!
Players,
yes,
with the random names.
This is what they're genius at. Those Key and Peele are genius at taking something that everyone is familiar with, like watching the roster of the players that are going to be playing the game that we're all going to be watching today, or the guys that have the hats, and they not only have the hats, but it's flat brim, and it's got this sticker, and it's got this decal, and it's got there's one where it's like these two guys battling on a street as who has the cap. So they take these things that you and I and everybody are familiar with, and then they just sort of bring it to like a ridiculous, absurd extreme where we're laughing so hard about it. And what's brilliant about Peele is he's clearly able to do that in the opposite direction. He's able to dig into your head. It's like, okay, where would you be most vulnerable? Oh, if somebody could literally get into your mind and control your body. So he's able to go one way and make us laugh out loud, and he's able to go the other way and terrify you on such a intimate level. That's a special type of brilliant.
Socially and psychologically, I just love that dynamic. How you took something that was familiar and did something completely unexpected, and from that, that is definitely like one of the best takeaways from Get Out that I have about the movie, because there was a lot of Stepford Wives in it. There was also a lot of like I said, John Carpenter. It definitely reminded me of I think, was it The Children or The People Under their House? I can't remember the name of the movie. I forgot the name.
There's okay. John Carpenter, he did a remake in the early '90s. He did a remake of
People Under the Stairs.
No, People Under the Stairs. That was Wes Craven.
Oh, okay.
John
All right.
Carpenter remade. He remade. Hang on a second. I can't believe. Hang on. Let me just pull this up.
Sorry about that. I have to make you dig.
No. Well, here's the thing. What's most embarrassing here is I actually know his full filmography, and I cannot think of. Hang on. Village of the Damned. Okay, Village of the Damned. He did in 1995. That was a remake of a 50s film where this couple shows up in a village, and it's the children are like possessed, and the children can mind control all of the adults. So yeah,
right.
To your
Yeah,
point.
Children of the Damned.
Like,
Okay.
there's also a lot of the people under the stairs as well, because you have the terror of the suburbs. Just being, if you're a city kid, you're a city guy, you're a city gal. There's an aspect to suburbia that can be really unnerving. You go to certain subdivisions, and it's like all the houses look the same, all the what I mean, the cars look the same. It's a very, not to say that neighborhoods and cities don't look similar, but he establishes pretty early with Lakeith Stanfield's character in that opening of it's being a fish out of water, and so anybody who's ever been a fish out of water anywhere ever can relate to that.
That's
there's
a scenario.
Right. You have bits of People Under the Stairs. You have bits of Village of the Damned. You've got obviously the classic Invasion of the Body Snatchers, even though it's not quite the same concept.
Right. Yeah.
If you haven't, I highly recommend the 1970, because there's been several remakes of that film. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the version made in 1978 with Jeff Goldblum and Donald Sutherland, may he rest in peace, is to me the best version of that remake. It is scary because it was made in the late 70s, so it's that very noirish, very gritty sort of filmmaking. It's a lot of use of shadows. And then I'm watching Get Out. I really got a lot of that too, because the cinematography, it's a lot of use of shadows and deliberate use of light and color, and you have a lot of that in those types of films. And that actually, that was my next question. This is something I've been trying to get back to with our movie reviews. Is when we first started, for a while, it was, okay, we talk about a film, and then we talk about what are movies that would make a great double bill with this, and we've kind of covered it. Get Out and People Under the Stairs, Get Out and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Get Out and Children of the Damned. I'm trying to think if there's something else, any other films that might pair well with this. I mean,
I was thinking, because I did before we started up, I did check out like a cinematic analysis of the movie just to kind of get a refresher. I think there was a movie, I forgot that it's a 70s, also a 70s movie, but I think it's the original Stepford Wives movie.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
There was a lot of parallels that was made between that movie and Get Out. Almost to the point, it seemed like Get Out was almost like a remake of that movie. But in a sense, it was, back then it was more of a movie that was it used women, more so than like black men or black people in general. But you had like this, this private society of people that had been kind of manipulating, I guess, a woman who was kind of, I think she was like a New York photographer as well. And she was, she's kind of independent, kind of doing her thing, but she was in a relationship with a guy. And I guess, he brought her to go, visit her family in, another suburb. And they were, another, twisted up, private community of people. I guess they saw women that were only meant to do certain things in certain roles. And I guess they were kind of trying to manipulate or brainwash her in a sense as well. Maybe, I don't think it was to the same extreme. I'd have to look at it again to be sure. But there was a sense of, social constraints against this protagonist who had, a lot more, freedom and independence, where she was at, where she had her career. And I guess she, went with the guy. And it doesn't sound, as tripped out as Get Out. But I think for the time, there were some constraints in the film that made it seem like she could.
Well, yeah, I think that was the late '60s, and even then, even though the Hays Code had gone away, I think by that time, you still could only do certain things because you have the Motion Picture Association of America. You're still subject to a rating system, and you could probably only do so. I think that was a major. It was either a major TV network or a major movie studio that produced it. If that had been more of an independent film like Carnival of Souls or Night of the Living Dead, they probably could have gotten away with doing a bit more. But I see your point, and that's actually something else. Like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Stepford Wives is another film that's seen a few incarnations as well. So it's brilliant on the part of Peele to take the concept and it's like, okay, well, they applied in Stepford Wives. It was applied to gender and to sex and to the role of women. And he's sort of like, okay, well, I'm going to take that and I'm going to tweak it, turn it on its side, and layer in a few the sociological and racial aspects to it as well, and just blew the doors off, man.
Yeah, now to think about it, yeah, there's another scene in that film and Get Out that really tripped me out with the with the auction. That was so surreal.
My God, right?
That tripped me out because honestly, I was like, I couldn't figure. I didn't know what they were doing. I really couldn't tell.
You can only because they have it tight on the father, and then they have it tight on people in the audience. And I'm like, and they all have bingo cards. I'm like, what is happening? And then you have that pan out, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's like a slave auction.
And I'm like, wait, they're doing a bid, like what? But with bingo cards, like. It's like he's up for sale. Yeah, that tripped me out too. Because I had a feeling like we saw a couple of the other black guys in the movie. Yeah, they had been something was definitely wrong with them. When you think about how every character in the story has they all have their own storyline. You think about it. You think about how the first black guy in the movie, he got abducted and he shows up later on, and he's docile, he's really calm, he's wearing different types of clothes, he's talking a different type of way, sounds really polite and pleasant, and he's not using profanity. He was just super proper. He was just extremely,
he was talking like an old genteel man when he is
this dude like the 1920s.
Again, similar to when Chris approached Walter. It was the night before that he ran into Walter, or Walter almost ran into him. At night, and the next morning he goes over to talk to Walter, and that whole interaction was so creepy because of the way, like, Walter's voice and his cadence of speech just doesn't seem to match his look at all. And I don't mean that
very creepy.
Walter's black and he's talking, quote unquote, talking white. I don't mean it in that way. It's like the voice was so divorced from from where it was coming from that I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, you knew something was really strange with
everybody goofy.
Yeah, everybody was acting really strange, and that's what I couldn't think of. I was like, what? It's like that was another thing I was thinking. I was like, were they like lobotomized or something? Is that what it is? But then it kind of goes back to the whole element of hypnosis, and I'm like, wait a minute. That's what I was like. Wait, were these guys hypnotized at one point? What's going on?
Yeah,
and I kind of thought about it too, because honestly, before the picture reveal, before the for the big flip with the girlfriend, I had a suspicious feeling that, okay, were these people like the last black family that came to visit? Was that the boyfriend and his mom that came to visit, the Armitage family, and they weren't allowed to leave or something? And they hypnotized them and they became their servants. Is that what it is? And once again, the phase 3 that made it.
Well, and again, a testament to the writing, a testament to the crafting of this film, that you're trying so hard to figure it, because it's so compelling, it's so interesting, it's so disturbing, that you can't help but be running your mind like, okay, how is this working? Like, what is going on? Like, how? Like, why? How? And then that third act, or that third sort of punch, it's like, oh man, okay, this is horrific.
They're gonna move his brain. They're gonna move his brain into. Take his brain out and put the old man's brain in. I'm like, put the blind guy in. He wanted all of his stuff. He wanted, I was like, damn, that's considering the fact that he said he wanted his eyes. He had a better eye.
Yeah, he even said, he's like, I don't care about what color you are, man. I just want your eyes. And I'm like,
I was
ugh.
like, what the fuck? Sick, man. It's
You
like
know,
you want.
it's an interesting angle that I don't know that I've watched. I've heard a whole lot of people talk to, is that clear, obvious sense of generational envy of people that are sort of elderly now and maybe not as well as they once were,
Yeah,
coveting the health and the vigor of younger people, and so
right,
much
right.
so that they're
Yeah,
going to literally steal it from you. It just, again, incredible, incredible horror, but even more incredible science fiction in that execution. This was a fun one. It's one that I love to watch with people because I feel like I find more and more each time. And not
yeah.
even
It's
that, it's a beautiful, despite the fact that it is a horror movie. People think I'm weird when I say this, but there are so many horror movies that are brilliantly shot, that are truly just incredibly well composed. And
yeah,
this is one of them. Like all his films so far have been. I
yeah. They've
really
been
enjoy
really cool.
them. They're fun to look at. You can hit pause in almost any part of it, and it's sort of like this incredibly cool wallpaper to look at.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely the cinematography and the shots. That, like you said, they're very distinct in how they do things with space and color, and
Yeah.
also with shades and shadowing, and that that to me is brilliant. I really think that it's something I like to like examine a little bit more closely. Now that I'm kind of getting back in the movie phase about critiquing movies and stuff,
Right.
I'd really like to take a little bit closer look at how Jordan Peele uses space and color to
Right.
really strike a tone for a scene or just a movie in general because he's got a
I've
very
got to, yeah, I want to dig up a Blu-ray of this because that's one thing. Streaming is great, but what I miss with DVDs is all of the extras and the featurettes where they show you the making of and the interviews. I've got to dig up some of that because yeah, you're right. I would really love a detailed documentary of sorts of how this movie got made, like what influenced him, why he made certain choices, and then the craft of it in terms of, like you said, cinematography, composition, color, lighting, all of that, for
yeah,
sure.
it's great stuff. Like I think about um, I think about Stranger Things comes to
Yeah,
mind. And for
yeah,
some reason, Wes Anderson, for some reason, the way he
okay,
uses cinematography to I don't know, the way he does his shots, he's got a very distinct style too. Like I said, it's something I have to kind of like look in and analyze so I can get like a proper critique of it.
well, it
But
feels it doesn't, like Wes Anderson films, Jordan Peele films,
yeah,
they have their creators mark and style all over them, as opposed to a lot of other films where it's like, okay, this was a director for hire, the studio or whomever was telling them to do it a certain way, and it
yeah.
doesn't necessarily have their aesthetic style built into it,
Hmm.
and that makes these films really fun. But yeah, man, I appreciate your being willing to rap about this one because it's one
Yeah.
of my favorites. It really is.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like the spirit of Rod Serling is strong in Jordan Peele, and I think it's so cool that he wants to keep making these movies. He just announced what I think his next one is going to be out 2025 or 2026 on
Oh
Halloween.
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
snap.
and I
Didn't
don't
know that.
remember exactly um, like we don't know a name, we don't know anything about it other than it's going to drop on Halloween either next year or the following year. But I'm glad he's. It's cool to see somebody who's super good at one thing, and then they surprise you, and they're really good at another. But
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely gonna check out because I believe Trap is coming out soon.
okay,
That's a new I believe that's a new Jordan Peele movie that's coming out, and it
he
has a
must have
Get
been
Out feel to it. But
trapped.
yeah.
Oh,
Let me just go back and confirm just to make sure I got this right because I just saw the trailer for it recently, and it looks it looked like Get Out, but it looks like there's a lot of people trapped in a giant
it's M Night.
container.
It's M Night
That's in
Shyamalan.
like Shyamalan. God damn it!
Yeah,
See what I mean? That's what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
No, it's
Thinking
all
of
right. No. Here's the thing. He's another one. I think he's another one because he's such a student of Hitchcock. M Night
uh
Shyamalan. M Night Shyamalan is
yeah.
another one. Any of his movies would pair well with, in a double bill with any of Peele's movies. And these guys are just next level with the suspense. And I saw Old a few years ago. Like it completely went under the radar. It was Shyamalan's last film. It was, I think it came out like around pandemic, so it kind of just got dumped on streaming and nobody watched it.
Yeah.
That was really good. That was another one where like I have no idea where this is going, and then at the end I'm like, oh, so
I gotta
brilliant
check that one out because I remember wanting to see it, and it just didn't happen. But M. Night
that would be my other recommendation.
I still think he'll never be able to top Signs.
So, well, you know what? I recently learned something about Signs that, and I won't get into it here. We're wrapping up here. But if you are willing to, after we're done reviewing Jordan Peele's films, let's review Signs, because I learned something about the film that I didn't realize. And then when I went back and watched it, I was like, whoa, it was there the whole time. We're led to believe that Signs is about one thing when it's really about something else. And I don't want to spoil it, because we'll rewatch it and we'll review it together. Because when I learned this, my head exploded. So that's another one. That's another one. Signs is one we should do for sure, man. But But yeah, thanks for coming on, man. This was fun. We'll tackle the next couple ones soon. And all of you out there, if there's anything we've missed, any other movies you think would be worth reviewing, let us know in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and we will see everybody in the next one. So thanks again.
Yep. Thank you all so much. Thank you.